Alright, let's make this video quick because I had to turn my fan off to film it and it's hot. Fuck yous. How are you? I'm fantastic. I'm super cool. I think I've started a few videos the same way. This is a voice video. Kind of. It's an impression tutorial, but my voice is fucked. Not from doing impressions either, just from the work I do as an actual job. Ow, fuck you, fan. So because I've been wanting to do a voice impression tutorial for a while, but I've not been able to do my impressions as well as normal, I figured I would just give you guys all some tips. Tips and tricks for how to do voice impressions. Impression tutorial 5 or 4. One of the two. I think it's 6 actually. Tip number 1. It's pretty obvious. Water. If you're doing voices of any kind, if you've created a voice or a character you have to play, or if you just want to do some impressions, changing your voice, your natural voice in any way can be kind of strenuous on your voice box and your throat, and it's dehydrating, especially if you're doing gravelly voices. Like they unless you've got a naturally gravelly voices are the worst to do. I have a kind of gravel in my voice, but it's just because my voice is fucked right now. Water is a big help with any voice you want to do. If you want to keep it consistently the same and not get too much strain on your voice, you need to have a lot of water just at hand whenever you're doing impressions. Tip number 2, another obvious one, but maybe not so obvious to most people. Practice. Just keep practicing over and over again. A lot of the comments of the other voice tutorials are people saying, I haven't got the voice. Like, I watched the video once, I didn't get it. It's not easy to do perfectly on your first try. Like, it's really hard. The ones I even show in the videos, all the other impression tutorials, I practiced for weeks, years, months. You know, that's why these videos are so sporadic and branched out, because 1, I have to learn how I do the voice to teach you guys, and 2, sometimes I have to learn a whole new voice. Practice, just over and over again, keep practicing. You know, you hear the voice, you learn how to do the voice, you watch the tutorials that are on my channel, and a little shameless plug just there, and you keep going until you have the voice down, until you don't need to watch the tutorials or hear the voice again to get it. You can just get it like in the middle of a party or something. Which brings me into my 3rd tip, which I think is a pretty important one, but one that's overlooked a lot with a lot of impressions and even generic voices that you have to do, like voices you've created as a voice actor, is re-listening to the voice. For example, the Joker. I can do a pretty solid Hamill Joker. I can do it way better if I refresh myself on how to do the voice and what he sounds like. If I play through the Batman Arkham games again, or just listen to Mark Hamill talk on the internet, it clicks back in your brain how it's supposed to sound and how your impression is slightly strayed. You've learned how to do it, you've got that voice, but then if you want to do it again later, maybe you don't push yourself quite as far as you normally do because it's a bit more of a stretch than you're comfortable with doing with your voice. And re-listening to the voice you're trying to do, even if it's a voice that you've created yourself, going back and listening to the first time you did it, the first time you were truly proud of that voice, is a really important thing if you're trying to keep the voice consistent, keep the impression up to date. Number 4, a trigger sentence. You know, something that you can just think of that character says and you're immediately just back into the voice. There's a few that are really easy, like with the Joker. The one that works for me with the Joker is, "Oh, Batsy!" Finding that set of words that the character or your character has said in sequence, like a sentence would be, I don't know where I'm going with this, it's very important to have it at the ready just in case you do get slightly off. Like, for example, if you're recording it and it's just not quite right. You know it in your head, you can't figure out why. You don't know what you need to change, but you know it's not right. So you say your trigger sentence again, and you're back in. The last tip, tip number 5, I didn't lose count, you shut up. For perfecting an impression, or just for perfecting a voice in general, is to make sure you can do it in different inflections, different volumes, say different words that you don't normally use as a person, that they don't normally use in a character, just so you know you have that full range of voice. You know, you've got everything. If you just start yelling in a voice that you haven't really practiced, you might just start yelling how you normally sound and you lose the impression. Same with whispering, and sometimes if you've perfected the whisper but not the normal volume voice, it's the same. Testing out new words with your impression is also helpful. Like if you're just doing impressions, sticking to quotes from movies or games or whatever the character you're doing impression of is in, it kind of gets stale, it kind of gets old, and you don't expand the voice that you can do. You don't expand your impression. You can just say those quotes. It's like mimicry rather than impressions. You know, impersonating rather than doing an impression. It's a bit different. It's a small difference, like no one's really going to care. If you're like showing off at a party and you can do the impression by saying the lines they say, you've impressed them probably. So, to recap, testing new words and inflections of your impression helps you master the impression a little faster and a little better. Having a trigger sentence ready that you can just jump to if you start to lose the voice mid-impression is quite helpful. Re-listening to the original voice, wherever you got the voice from, is also quite helpful. Just to remind you of what that voice sounded like when you heard it first, to get you out of the comfort zone you have with the voice. Practice is just always a good rule for almost anything that you want to do good at. And water. Water is super helpful, and I probably should have had some before I started this video. Probably should have had some on hand right here, but I don't, because I'm an idiot. 5 tips for doing voices. Any voice impression, any character you want to do, hopefully these help you. And I should probably have a better voice. My voice might be better by the time I try and do another impression tutorial again.
Hello, it's me.